My next guest is Virginia Kase. She's CEO of the League of Women Voters, an organization devoted to empowering voters and defending democracy. Virginia was a recipient of the 2019 Hispanic Heritage Award for Leadership, and in March 2020, she was named the People en Español's Most Powerful Women of the Year list. I also follow her on Twitter, and I want to say congratulations, because she just snuck off recently and got married. So congratulations, Virginia. So let's talk about this election. Last time we were about to speak, I told you how I used to be League of Women Voters, the debates around the country. This was one of my go-to in the places. I know that you're in touch with this kind of broad infrastructure around the country. Tell us what equities mattered in the mind of voters as you saw it this time around.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we were able to keep connected this time.
Exactly.
No tech troubles this time. It was interesting. It was a very, very interesting election. We worked really hard at the League. We have a grassroots membership of 400,000 members and supporters throughout the country who have been working on elections, meeting with elections officials, trying to make sure that the elections were taking place the way that they should, that everybody had access to the ballot box. And so this was a really tough election season. I think we all need to just acknowledge and kind of take collectively exhale that the work is close to being done. Not quite. We know that there's still a runoff in Georgia coming in January. But what we heard from our membership time and time again that people cared most about was being able to have their voices heard this election season. People were really concerned about COVID and being able to have access to the ballot. And do they have to show up and vote in person? What is vote by mail? How can I absentee vote? Because remember, 100 million voters voted by mail, whether it was proactively having mail ballots sent to them or through an absentee ballot that they requested, which is historic for this country and really impacted the turnout that we saw. But that's where we really, a lot of what we focused on and a lot of what we heard was the concern around access to the ballot and what was happening with our democracy over the past year, which I think a lot of people really have been concerned about.
Look, I'm having an argument at home with my significant other on whether democracy is being strengthened right now or not, as we see the skirmishes over ballots, over voting, over whatever way. My take on it, strengthened, because you see in a way people wanted to vote in their cars in Texas, right, in Harris County. Some people, as you said, went to vote early in person in places or may have ordered their ballots or may have had them sent in. The diversity of ways in which Americans voted was wider than we've ever seen before. We saw a massive surge in participation, not seen in 100 years in this country. And so I guess as we see this, to my mind, and maybe I'm naive, I'm pretty heartened by things. Am I wrong? Tell me where, as Rachel Maddow would say, tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong. Actually, we have been celebrating the expansion of voting rights and access to the ballot this election season. I think that, what we want to do is see this continue. We want to see a participatory democracy. We want to see a democracy where people have more access. Think about how many people aren't able to participate each election season. Low wage earning workers, people who work in jobs where they don't get the luxury of being able to take a few hours off. They don't have the luxury of being able to get up on a Tuesday and vote in some cases. People who are caregivers, people who live in rural communities with limited access to polling locations. So the amount of people who have been able to vote this election season is just incredible. And we want to see that continue. And so I think one of the things that we hope will pass through the Senate at some point is the expansion of the Voting Rights Act. We need to see the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. And we also, there was something called H.R. 1 in the House. It was passed and it went to the Senate. It was called the For the People Act, which is a comprehensive omnibus voting rights or democracy package. And we really want this next Congress to come back and look at that, revisit it, think about what we can do for our country and how many more people's voices can be heard if we really take a close look at those reforms and have the negotiation needed to make sure that it's something that works for every person.
Let me ask you this question, Virginia, and I'm going into territory I don't know anything about, but my understanding of League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, right?
Yes, we are a nonpartisan organization.
So when it comes to John Lewis, the Voting Rights Act, when it comes to broadening access, that plank that gets somebody who hasn't been able to vote to be able to take that sacred act and to act on their right as an American citizen to vote, I'm just wondering, I sort of feel like that's been a political issue in a bizarre way. Is it a political issue in your organization, or do you have enough weight with both sides of the aisle that you're able to neutralize the toxicity of that? I mean, am I getting this right? Because it seems like there's some people trying to not get everybody to vote.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that has been really unfortunate. This environment has become so polarizing. And so it's made it much, much harder for organizations like ours to show up and have discussions about things that shouldn't be partisan. Voting shouldn't be partisan. The Voting Rights Act has been passed time after time, most recently during the Bush administration. So this is not something that should have been challenged to reauthorize. It's just that we've gotten to this very polarizing place in our country. And I would say, you know, one of the things about the League that we're very proud of is that we study issues. Our membership votes on our positions, and we have positions that have carried us since our organization was founded. And voting rights, the Voting Rights Act is something that we have always supported as an organization and something that we will continue to support, because at the core of our work, it is our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. And the Voting Rights Act is at the core central part of that mission.
Right. Can you share with me just real quickly, as you have polled, as you've talked to your members out there, you have a huge organization, when it comes to women who are 65 plus, so I'm going to say 50 plus, but 65 plus. What's on their dashboard? What are they, when you talk to them about what matters most, what are you hearing?
Well, just like, you know, everybody in this segment before me, it comes down to healthcare. It still continues to be one of the main issues that our members care about. They want to make sure that they have access to adequate healthcare, especially during COVID. You know, people are afraid. They're afraid that COVID will create a pre-existing condition that could prevent them from having access later on if too much damage is done, or too much of the things that were available to all of us in the Affordable Care Act are removed. So people have real concerns about healthcare, what that means for them, and what the impact of COVID will have on their healthcare access.
Virginia, are you going to get back into the debates game?
Well, I will say we never left the debate game.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, tell us the real thing, because I used to watch the League of Women Voters. I mean, when I was growing up, that was the debate I went to. So tell me where I tune in.
So the League runs debates at the local, state, and national level for congressional and Senate races all over the country. They still happen. So that's one thing that we can assure folks of. We did pull back from the presidential debates almost 30 years ago. And the reason for that, though, was because the parties decided to take more control over the debates. And the leadership at the time said, we will not be a part of what they called the hoodwinking of America. They wanted to make sure that they were able to ask the questions that they wanted to ask, that they were asking questions that were of most concern to the voters, and that there was true transparency in the way that the debates were held. And so we commend the Commission on Presidential Debates, because they have been doing a really good job this time around, and under what was very, very trying circumstances. We are happy to partner with them moving forward, because we want to make sure that every voter, especially in these presidential debates, that they feel as though they have people like them who are asking the questions.
And just finally, yesterday was your 1 month anniversary, I think, October 11th, when you were married. If you tweeted on the day you got married, I don't know. But how are things going?
Oh, thank you so much. They are going well. Yes, we snuck off. We had different plans, but just like with everyone else, COVID made us make some changes. But so we had a very, very small, intimate family ceremony, but we are very, very happy that we were still able to find some joy in 2020, which is what I hope everybody can do despite what we're all facing as a nation.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, Virginia Kase, CEO of the League of Women Voters, it's a real pleasure to talk to you. I hope you'll come back often. This was really a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.